And 16 people so far. And I'm just waiting for kick into YouTube, and then actually we'll get going on that. So if people want to share where they're coming in from today, it's always a kick for me to know how far my reach is. And yeah, somebody in my yesterday had said, well, we're all around the world, so what difference does it make? I'm going, well, it makes a difference for me because I need to know. It's kind of nice when someone from England or South America joins.
There you go, England.
What's that?
Hertfordshire, England.
You're from England, James.
Yeah.
Ah, see my point. My day just got better. So thank you for sharing that. Okay. And we are actually live on YouTube, so I'm going to okay. Well, let's get started. Welcome to Widen Your Gaze Fridays. My name is Luc Bouchard. I am the host of this particular segment, but I also have I offer webinars 4 days a week. And today marks my, I think, 115th 90-minute webinar since March 24th. So I'm really excited about our content today and our expert that's joining us. And we have Simha, and I'm not going to pronounce the last name because I always get it wrong. So Simha could do that himself on that. But Simha came on my radar after he attended my Meetup Live talk on creating a business with Meetup and whatnot. And one of the pleasant surprises of engaging with Simha is how much value he brings to me and his clarity of thought and his business background. And I know he's going to talk about his background, but he is accomplished. He's worked for Fortune 500 companies, right, Simha? Is that right? Fortune 100 companies? You've worked for those, or?
Yeah.
Shoumo. Oh, jeepers. I'm a bit nervous.
I was thinking there is a Simha today.
A bit nervous. I've been going for the word go. So Shoumo.
Yeah.
Okay. And now that I've lost all credibility, let me do this. So introduction, take two. Shoumo is with us today. He has a lot of expertise in business and helping businesses move from point A to point B. He has strategies that he uses, and he's brought a lot of clarity in my business. And without further ado, so
Shoumo.
And yeah, please take it away as I will.
So Luke, I'm not sure whether I am sharing my screen. Like, do you now see?
Yes, you're perfect now.
The LinkedIn.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I had the thing to your opening thing. So now I'll just. So folks, as I'm going along, I have sections where I have Q&As, slides for Q&As or pauses for Q&A. But like you're free to type in your questions in the chat. Look, if you can.
I will monitor
that.
Yep.
And I will also ask for certain. And as I'm going through that, let me get into this this slide. So okay. So if you can, what I'll do is, let me find the chat. Here we are. The previous times I've done this on the Zoom webinar platform. We are doing this on the meeting platform, so it's a bit different. I normally ask for feedback through polls that I run. So if you go to your chat, you will see that I have dropped in an URL over there, linkedin.com/sales/SSI. And I'd request you to go over there, quickly look up your score. It will be something which looks like this over here, like the 74 that you see. There would be a score like that. and I would like you to share your score in the chat as I'm talking, so we get a sense of where people are in this audience over here. So the LinkedIn score SSI, the LinkedIn Social Selling Index, is I see some 76. So those are excellent scores, very good scores, and some don't sort of know of this score, but they have very high scores anyway. And if you are not very active on LinkedIn, then your scores tends to be on the lower side, on the 30s, 40s, and stuff like that. Now, by just either like say yes or no, I'd like to know whether you have heard of the LinkedIn Social Selling Index earlier, or this is the first time you checked it.
This is the first time for me.
Okay, great. So excellent. There are quite a few people who are saying first time, and that's interesting because LinkedIn tries to use this to sell their LinkedIn Sales Navigator platform, and they don't. Otherwise, you don't learn of it often. I feel that this is important uh, because it gives us an objective measure of what we are doing on whatever we are doing on LinkedIn is working or not. It is also beyond like a vanity metrics. So on the screen, what I have on the right is the nine cell sketch, so to speak. So that's a business model canvas, and I personally use it for as the framework for business modeling exercises that I do. And the four measures that LinkedIn Social Selling Index, um, or the four elements of the Social Selling Index, aligns with the business model. So in the center, the establish your brand is a value proposition. Finding the right people are the customer segments you sell to. Engage with insights, line up with the channels, and build relationships, line up with the relationship aspect of the measure. So what you have seen as you were looking at at your scores are these three measures, right? Like, and no matter what you do on LinkedIn, you more or less your activities fall or align with these four cards or suits of LinkedIn. And what we will be doing in this presentation is going through those one by one to see how they, what like looking under the hood, so to speak, and then demystifying it. So the reason why, again, why it is not a random measure is from a business modeling perspective. For any business, you have to have desirable offerings, feasibility in fulfillment, viability in funding, and you need to be adaptable to the environment. And all the four components of the measure of the social selling index falls into the desirability uh, aspect of your business. And so even though the source of this data is LinkedIn itself, they have done some research to bring up the correlation. I wouldn't say these are causal relationship like cause and effect, but to me these are more like correlation of if your score is high, then most likely what your objectives are would also being met. So so here is one assumption that I have made, that all of you know what you are selling. Um, And the reason I say that, like, that's an assumption, it's not like we often are in a state of transition. If we are in a state of transition, then a lot of the factors that we talk about is difficult to apply and go about. So we need to chase the cobwebs, or clean the cobwebs from our minds before we are able to really put these to use. Now let's jump into the sections one by one, and we will see how they line up. Now each of these sections are almost have content for a whole webinar. So it might seem a bit rushed and a bit at an overview level. What we could do is, depending on your interest, I could direct you, Luke and I could direct you to other webinars later on in the path, and we can go through a process over here. But the first thing, which in the establish your brand section, that measure is you complete your profile with the audience in mind, and be a thought leader in with meaningful posts. Now, before we go further, if you could just key in, as you did before, the value of the first section of uh, the social selling index. So this is not the total. So this would be the first one in the social selling index. Let me show you what I mean. So this is so this, for example, is my index as of today, and I'm talking about the establish your um, brand score over here. The max is 20, 24, 25, and this is Luke, am I back to the presentation in the view mode? Uh, so if you are not able to see the presentation, the show and tell slide, please mention in the chat, and I will make sure that I bring that back up. So that score of the maximum score over there is 25, and 25 times 4 make up the 100. And it seems that all of you have quite a decent to especially the 19 that I see are quite high, and you have paid attention to your profile, and that's why the score is so high over there. So there are two components of this score, and two sides of the same coin, so to speak. So one is the presence, and other is the content that you share. Now when we talk about, and when we say creating a profile with the audience in mind, this sketch over here is called a value proposition canvas, and I also use it, and I've drawn it from again, the business modeling technique that I use. On the right are the three things which customers or prospects or clients or your audience looks at. Like, they have pains, they have gains, and they have jobs to be done. And so the value that we are trying to provide to them maps with this. That's one way of looking at it. And if I look at the customers your audience in a greater detail, like, they are doing stuff, like they have some pain points, they have some gains. So if you have that in the back of your mind, then what you do is, when you fill out your profile, you would have a frame of reference, so to speak, to position your profile or write out your profile on. Now the profile, as I said, like, the profile in itself is almost like you can go on with it for about 90 minutes or so. But the key sections, I would say, that that matter are the what we could call the top of the fold components, which which sort of people decide, like this is the cover of the book, and then people judge the book by its covers, and people decide whether to pursue or read the rest of the profile based on first the headshot, then the banner, the headline, and then the about section. Now the so and and I'll get into the platform in a minute to talk about a bit more of each of these. But here is an example of a person's profile, which is the the headshot, for example, is something which, if you are familiar with the BNI organization, they say that their dress code is you come in wearing the clothes that you would show up to a client place. So it is also somewhat like that, but it goes a bit beyond that, in the sense that, like, people decide whether they want to engage with the person with a blink of an eye. And it is a bit of a challenge to figure out what headshot to use for your profile. Now, most of the time, what we do is we ask someone besides ourselves, like we have a favorite photograph, and then we ask someone, hey, is this good enough? And that person normally would say, yes, this looks like you, this conveys your personality. So anyone who knows us and then looks at the photo is not really the best judge of it, because their perception or their feedback on the photograph is biased by their experience of knowing us. So what I suggest is, and I have written over here the URL, photofeeler.com is the place where I recommend that you go to take a poll or a survey of total strangers. And if you go there, you will see that it has a lot of interesting features. The other thing which I would like to talk about over here is the headline. Now, LinkedIn by default, and let me get to that when I go to LinkedIn in itself. The about section, the shortcut to it, which people take, is we look at our resumes, we pick up our resumes, and we use the summary portion or introduction portion of the resume to write out the about us section. uh, the the challenge over there is, or the purpose of LinkedIn is not, so the purpose of the resume and the purpose of the profile are very different. The resume speaks to the wealth of experience that we have accumulated, but the profile is something which is forward looking, and it is like a value proposition or what you can do to the others. So it's almost like in a job search environment, the resume and the cover letter. So if you have that in the back of your mind, so the about section is almost the cover letter. And if you look at what the purpose of the first line of the about section is to make the audience read the second line. It's almost like the headline of a news story in a newspaper is to get people to read the first paragraph. And once they have read the first paragraph, the purpose of the first paragraph is to get them to read the rest of the story. So when you say create a branded thing, so here it shows your authority, the visual elements connect to what you do, and and the headline is going to, I'll come to that in a second. So the other element of this measure is, uh, to the it says that engage the content that you share. And these are the things which are there as content elements in LinkedIn. The stories are quite new. They came out at the end of last month, beginning of this month, sometime like that. And I haven't yet dabbled in the stories, but like that's another component which has been created. Um, I will get to more on the content part of it when we go to the engage with insights, the third element of this. So I will let me go to the LinkedIn itself to talk about um, the profile. So
Shoumo, is it going to throw you off
yeah,
if I ask a question or make a comment?
sure.
So your headshot comment I found to be very interesting in light of a post that came out a few weeks ago. I just got a brand new portrait of myself, and I have multiple ones. And so, of course, the question is, what do I use? And the day after I got one done, a woman on LinkedIn, and maybe you've seen this, basically talks about the fact that she's and I'm paraphrasing, so I don't know if I remember it correctly, but she's tired of pretending. She's tired of basically putting on this front, and her
Yes,
image that she's going to use is going to be more of an organic kind of taken from just like what it really looks like now that we're working at home. And I struggled with that assertion, and the support she got from everyone. Did you see this post by any chance?
I did,
Yeah.
and she got a lot of support, and so so you would see that most of the people who had commented on the post were second or third degree connections to her, right? So they have a level of exposure to her already, and they are responding to her personality and the claim and everything that she's making. But at the same time, like Malcolm Gladwell's book, like Blink, it talks about like how we make up our mind in the first few seconds or nanoseconds of coming into contact with us. So that's all that you have. Now if you are not um, looking to use LinkedIn for either prospecting or making new connections, but just to keep up with your existing connections, you can come from that position which that lady did. But if you are in the business of growing your then it is a reality of life that people will judge a profile or have this have that instant connection or not based on the profile. And I don't have time to get into photofiller.com, but if you go there, you will see it has data science behind it. It does it normalizes the responses of people. It rates it, like there are three types of ratings that they give. No, one is the business profile, the other one is social profile, and then there's even a version called the dating profile, and they have different stuff over there. So that's
This
a
was my
very
thought. Yeah.
yeah
And this
yeah
is my thought. And so I cannot help but put on the executive coaching hat and actually the hat of HR consultant and all those different hats that I wear. And the thing that is interesting about it is that if I have three candidates that I'm looking at, and two of them doesn't have a professional portrait done, I know I'm going to go with the one that has a portrait, the one that's done
right.
personally on that. And just something else really quick. A former client of mine asked me like a year ago what I thought of his LinkedIn profile. And I said, your picture looks like, doesn't look good. It's not a representation. And it's just like, I said, I think you should get a professional done one. And he goes, there's lots of pictures of me. Why do I have to have a professional shot done? And I said, because it's your branding. It's who you
Correct.
are. And
Correct.
the image
Correct.
is not you. The image is the staunch and stiff guy. So anyway,
Hmm.
thanks
Hmm.
for entertaining my question
Hmm.
or my
No
comment.
problem. No problem. The other thing which LinkedIn does is LinkedIn takes up by default they take up the the position and the company, and they stuff that into the headline. So for Mark over here, it would have been something like project lead, lead operator in Central Jersey dustless blasting. But that's not, that sort of is okay if you are, say, Ginny Rometty, the chairman of IBM, or or you are Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada. The so right, so if you are someone like that, Barack Obama president, and then so that would be a headline which would be okay. Like, even if you are a CFO of a organization which everyone recognizes, that's just fine. People will connect with you because of the position that you are in. But otherwise, you if you are trying to be found, like, it depends on whether, what is your engagement style in LinkedIn. If you want to be found by search, the LinkedIn searches, then you make it a keyword rich headline over here, which is, these are the elements this guy needs to be found for. Or if you are engaging, like, in the face, if you are spending a lot of time on LinkedIn, then you can have a slogan over there. And when I get to engage with insights, I'll show, like, how they come up in the comments, and how a slogan might be a better way for people who are always commenting on others' posts, sharing articles, or sharing content. That could be like, I help coaches, or I help consultants earn, get leads, ask me how. So that type of a statement is good for a certain style. Then there are a lot of other sections, but like, what I would have time for today now over here is to make sure that if all the leading boxes over here have logos, they are not one of those gray boxes or the new versions LinkedIn has come up with. The Similarly, up over here, there needs to be logos over here. And there are various ways and means to make sure, like, if you choose the right, if you are doing it from, if the logos are not there and the company page exists, then make sure you go to the edit mode and choose from there. So the other things which are relevant from a branding perspective are the skills that you have over here. And again, the profile is a huge thing, and then we can go on forever over here.
So we have
I
a question from
Sure.
Chris about the link to the headshots article.
Right.
Yeah.
Chris, I noticed that, like, that's something which, okay, I think
We'll take care of it later.
should do. Right. I should
Yeah, we'll do it at the end.
do something over there. Right. And James says something. So that's another thing which happens is, a lot of times we have you use the settings and the privacy settings in such a way that the public cannot see a lot of the details. And again, if you are using LinkedIn for prospecting, then that's potentially a self-defeating type of a move. The other thing which I see often people do is they hide the second degree connections. That's again not a very good move to do. So if I go back to the presentation, so we are now in the second
Now seeing
section,
your,
which,
yeah, we're seeing your profile and demo and
right.
Q&A. Okay.
Yeah. So do we have the find the right people on
Yes,
screen?
we do. Yep.
So here's the next one. So how do we, so the question becomes, I have a profile, I have connected with everyone that I know of. How do I find the right people? And again, before we go there, I'd like to have a quick response on what your score over here is. finding the right people, the score for finding the right people. If you can quickly please share that a bit. Everett, that's a good score. Good.
Really liking the
So
engagement. Thank you, everyone, for participating.
so this is an interesting thing over here. Um, this is the I think this is the not the toughest, but the second most tough. Like in my mind, the easiest ones are the first and the last one. The third one score is the most difficult to get to a high level, and the fourth one if you're doing 16 um, uh, ish, that's a good score. The so here is so this is so what constitutes the right people, right? That's another question. I'd like to pause a bit over here, something which I haven't talked about earlier, which is LinkedIn or selling, social selling, so to speak, is aligned to what is called the account based marketing approach. And what is account based marketing? Account based marketing is when you know what products you would be selling to your segment. So, and then uh, um, ideally to say 10 businesses or 10 accounts, 10 companies that you or what 25 or whatever be that number you identify, and you say these are the people or these are the businesses that I'll be selling to. Now if you are in a SMB sector, you cannot limit yourself say to 25, but then what you do is you say that I will sell it to this industry in this region. You narrow down the market and have your strategy towards those that segment of people. And that's why when you talk about account based marketing, that's why these scores are also aligned to almost that account based marketing approach. Now to get back to what I was saying, and if there are any questions on that, I'll take those questions towards the end of the discussion. Now over here, so who are the right people? um, in my mind, they are, you need to categorize them into a few buckets. So know your clients, keep your clients close, keep your competition closer. So you connect to both of them, to your competition, to make sure you know what they are up to, what they are doing. You connect to your the domain or the industry experts, so that you have a constant flow of content and thought leadership from them. You also connect to your peers and associations, so that you can collaborate with them when the time comes. So and and how do you find? So one of the easiest way to find people is through LinkedIn search. The there are and the LinkedIn search is so one way of looking at LinkedIn is that this is a search engine of professionals, right? So there are all these professionals who have poured in data about themselves, and you can search by these attributes which are on the right side of your screen. If you are on Sales Navigator, there are more of these attributes that you can make use of. Like they open up a few more attributes over there, like seniority and size of the company and stuff like that. On the free LinkedIn.com, even if you have like a business premium account or a job seeker premium account, the number of attributes remain the same. What changes is that if you sign up for a premium account, you get more searches. Like the commercial limit of the searches gets extended. That's the only difference. Otherwise, everyone has the same type of searches that you can do. I will come to the content-based search in a while, and how you can use that to find people. If you have time, search for, like, look up Boolean search on LinkedIn Help, and you will see, like, you can use operators like and or in the keywords part of it. And LinkedIn does not very or clearly define what keywords is. The Towards the end of the search thing, you will see the name, job title, company, school. Those are sort of categorized as keywords by LinkedIn. So even if you have the name earlier, the current companies earlier, you have the company field again down below. So you could use that as that field to stuff in other stuff over there. And then LinkedIn also searches or recommends other people. I will go over to a demo. If there are questions, feel free to ask.
One of the questions we have is, and it's from Julie, is whether or not you're going to release your slide deck.
Yes.
If you will,
I'll
on that.
send it
Okay.
to you. Look, you can share it with everyone.
Actually, what I'm going to get people to do is I'm going to send them. I'll put your email address in there, and then they
Sure.
can email it for you. So I'll put that in right now. So
Sure.
Okay.
I have that my email address on the last slide. So.
Oh, okay. So yeah. So okay. So yes to the slide deck, Julie.
Yes.
Thanks for asking.
And so here is the. So let me go to the search. So here is the search button over here, right? Let me clear search from here and clear history. I go to the home page, and here we are on the search. So if I click over here, if I click on this button and just hit an enter, this is where we get to. Earlier, if you clicked over here, they would have all these other. So by default, the search is on people search. And if you look at all filters, you see all the filters which I was talking about then. Now there's just one thing which I'll talk about over here, is this ability to search by the second degree connections. And this is, like, we go to a lot of networking meetings and such to meet with new connections, right? And I feel that at times, I wouldn't say a waste of time, but a better use of your time could be to reach out to friends of friends, connections of connections. And that is how you do it in LinkedIn. If you search by everything else, just and click on that second degree connection over here, you will be served a list of people who are one connection away from you. So you would always have someone who you could ask to connect to this person. And that is why the recommendation by LinkedIn is that you connect with people who know you. It's not always possible. If you're networking, you will connect with people whom you sort of don't know, and there will be a lot of requests which will come in, and you will accept some of those. But if a LinkedIn contact does not feel confident enough to introduce you to another connection of them, then you need to really evaluate whether you want to be connected with that person or not. So that's again in the context of finding the right people. Now let me go to the content search that I had mentioned in my slide. So the way I reached it is I use that drop down over here, and it shows you, besides people, what are the types of searches that we can do. So, and say I am looking at say video communications.
I like it. It's a good chat. It's a good topic.
Communications. Yeah. and then what LinkedIn does, it brings up a list of posts and content which are related to video communications. Now, when I search it like this, what I do when and this is something which I do when I'm looking for people connections on a particular topic that I don't have a lot of contacts who are specialists in. So if say video communications was that a person something like that, and I didn't know Luke, then I would go in over here, search video communications, and look at these posts. And when I see a post where there are these many comments and these many likes, this is a person who gets noticed when they post. And so it at least sets, like, shortlists that person in my list of people that I should reach out to. They have a level of authority, they have a level of recognition, so they are like micro influencers or large influencers in their own space. So this is one of the ways in which I use to shortlist people and find the right people, so to speak. And I have used this in say customer loyalty programs. I was researching that once, and I didn't have anyone whom I knew was over here. And how does that help of finding new people? I'll get into more of it when I get to the next section. Um, I'll pause a bit to see if you have any questions.
And perhaps when you pause, you could take it off the share so people can see you.
Right.
Yeah, on that. So
HD.
HD. Yeah, I definitely should. We get to read what books you have behind you in your bookshelf.
Yeah, all the virtual books that I have. The cat is out of the bag.
Yeah. So, does anyone have any questions right now for on this topic, what we've covered?
Otherwise, you can go to your SSI score once more and key in the third score of your, which is engage with insights. Wow, that's good, Pat. I like that. 9.2, 13.9 is good. 12.22, 6.4. And as I said, Simha, I feel this is the most difficult and most mysterious of all the measures. And I'll tell you, the next one I feel is the easiest one to get up. So okay, we have some responses over here. Let me go to talk about what is my take on insights and stuff, and I'll go and talk about, give you some examples of. So the score over here, folks, is engage with insights. So there are actually two components: insights, which is the content, and the content that you provide needs to have a level of thought leadership and edge to it. And the other side of that statement is the engagement that you get, and you need both for this score to be high. So if you post, you need people to engage with that post. And the way you do that is not just say kudos to someone or get a bunch of congratulations by having reached an anniversary, but do that, like have that same level of engagement. So look, the other day, that lady whom we talked about, she did get a lot of engagement out of that. But if she can get consistently get something similar to that, that's when the score goes up. And here is something which I have left on the screen just to show that, like, the insights or the content that you show is not always, so it needs to be aligned with the customer journey. And this is also somewhat applicable if someone is here, knows someone who is in the job search space. And the whole approach or these four measures apply to that framework too, because even there you have customers as hiring managers and or the recruitment people, and you have content like your resume and other stuff. And that's where, in a job search environment, you just, most of us only have the resume as the only piece of content. But as the journey progresses, you need to have content. So if in a for a prospect, if you send the brochure on the first contact, then you don't have a lot more to send after that. Like, you have already almost shared all that you have at that point. And if you look at the customer journey, there are various pieces of content that you can share. And then content could be all these types which I've mentioned over here. There could be own content, curated content. Those could be direct or indirect content. Indirect as in you have your pages and you post from them, or you share them directly on your profile. And remember, like, it is not all about me. Like, I once someone criticized me for having too many domain names, like showmo.com, showmo.me, showmo dot whatever. And so it's to make sure that, like, there is this approach of advocacy versus inquiry. I often feel that because I have written this piece, this is a great piece, and I want to share it with others with a genuine conviction that this content adds value to someone else. But in a lot of cases, if they are really not interested, if that is not the problem that they have, then I'm giving them a solution to the wrong set of problem. So maybe the approach is better in the inquiry based approach, where you ask the questions and then give the answers later on. I will get to the. I have three specific. Um, so we talked about engage with insights, and now let me talk about the insight part of it a bit. So as I was telling people, like, my main challenge is the engage with insights, and you see that this is the lowest score that I personally have as of today. And this code changes on a day-to-day basis. I have tested it, and it does change on a day-to-day basis. So let me go to an example of someone who this is someone which I thought was a pretty neat and slick way of engaging, and so on and so forth. So here's Sam Rennick, a post, and you see that he says financial literacy education expert. So he does financial literacy for children, and that's why his brand, his logo is Sammy the Rabbit. And that's, so even though he does financial literacy, it is children, so, and it aligns with that. And the question he has is, why must leaders be readers? And what would you share with kids? He has tagged a few people over here. He had tagged me, and that's how I answered this question. And I shared my opinion over here. Then what Sam did, he changed those names and he brought in a few other names, so that at any point in time there aren't too many tags of people who aren't responding back. So that's a bad thing. If you tag people and they don't respond, then LinkedIn sort of thinks that your content is not really suitable for that audience. and your score doesn't improve because of that. So he did this for a few days. He changed around the names. He got people to respond. He sent them email messages, and here's what I was talking about the other time, other earlier, of say Stephen's headline: "Lover of life, believer in people." Now that's an intriguing one, even though it shows his personality, even it doesn't show what he's actually doing in what he does to help people. So here's another one: 20 years of experience in finance and strategy. So these are more like that slogan or position statements that I was talking about. This works when people are more engaging, like their style of engaging is more of these um, submitting comments and excuse me, liking people. So let me get back to this. So with the uh, once thought that he had enough of these comments, he used these comments to create an article, which said LinkedIn article, which says why leaders must be readers. And he has Warren Buffett named at the onset, and he talks about his reading habits, and then he lists all the comments that he had collected, including and tags those people over here. So as a result, each of them would get a notification that they have been tagged in a content, and most likely they will come and see this. They will like that they have been tagged, and they would share it with their network. They would like it. They would comment on it. So as a result, Sam gets another degree of exposure to his second or third degree network. And he also has these other links down here, which articles for everyone, articles for teens, and he is sending people to other places of content. And then this whole article becomes a very rich sort of an article which gets shared, creates that engagement. Most likely, such engagement will have a shelf life and it will eventually die down. Then what he does, he has, say, this post, same guy, same face, and he talks about him. So it has a relevance. The face has a relevance to the article that he has posted earlier. And once he starts getting traction over here, he again comments in the comment, he links people back to that same article. So this is one of the techniques which I have seen where you use crowdsourcing and then you send people back and forth and you increase the level of engagement. And here's something about, like, this is another way of where I used personal branding as a content search, got hold of certain people, wrote out a piece which I thought people would be interested in responding to. A bunch of people who did not know me actually spent quite a bit of a time responding to it. Now, in this post, there aren't too many comments, but you see the quality of the comments engagement is high. So and so was this. Like, this was a very dry subject of project status, and in despite that, there were people who responded to it. Now, and a funny anecdote or interesting anecdote is that connections like this, even though, say, Rod has just a few words over here, but this conversation went further, and Rod offered to co-author a book with me. So he had a connection in Wiley's. That conversation did not go forward, but you can. The point of the story is that you can make connections which proceed much further than you would guess it could. Now, you don't always get to, like, so the project management thing which I said was a dry subject. So one of the ways of antidote to that is pick up a subject which is topical, like which is current, and you can spike it with a level of controversy that people will respond to. So this is one of the things which the is over here. Like, he talks about COVID-19, And then he talks about the question of masks. And invariably there are 56 comments to the post over here. Now, you don't always need to be controversial to have comments like that, engagement like that come in. I clicked one too often, like one too much. So let me go back to, oops, sorry, not this one. Hang on with me, folks. Murphy's Law. Hopefully I'll get to it. So this is one post which is again the same thing, COVID, and the post is about readiness when people open after COVID. And what I did is and this is to show that whole thing about the oops, come on. This is to show the direct versus indirect thing that I had mentioned in the first one of the slides. So this is some content which has been posted to my Obligent Consulting company page, or LinkedIn page as they call it now, and it talks about like it talks about a framework of what people could look at when they were going through the process of reopening after the shutdown due to COVID. So I posted over there and shared that post with in my homepage or on my feed through my profile with a commentary on top. And you can do this with like, even if this is not something which you have written, you can use others' post as long as, and I would suggest that like you use, if you share or reshare any content, make sure it is LinkedIn native content, because otherwise LinkedIn will not be very will not favor that post. So since this was a post which was topical, it struck a nerve or a chord. So it at the end of, like, when everything was said and done, it got 16K of views on through with various people, various businesses in various roles and stuff. So this is, I would say, an example of a piece of content that I sort of spent a lot of time on, applied my mind, and wrote it out, shared in my company page, reshared on my homepage, and it had the effects that I wanted it to have. The other way of the other thing also, which is the engage with insights, or to see what people are saying. So if you go to the home page and look at the left rail over here, you have all these hashtags which LinkedIn has. So they have been going back and forth on hashtags over the years. It seems now hashtags are here to stay, and they suggest hashtags, they look at hashtags, and this is another way of branding your presence. So if you have a LinkedIn company page, there too you can say what, like, they let you choose up to 3 hashtags over there. So the hashtags act as both branding and like branding the content and looking for people who are doing well on that hashtag. So it acts both on it, on multiple layers, on the finding the right people, on the branding aspect, and if people are following a hashtag, it is also adds on to the engage with insight score. um, any questions on this?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So with the hashtags, you said that they do show the more popular, so it's going to So those are the ones that we should be using.
So one of the things which one of the schools of thought about hashtags is um, if you are using a hashtag in a post, have 3 levels of hashtag. So it's like small business. So if you are talking about, say, to go back to my last one, post-COVID recovery. So it is about recovery, post-COVID recovery, and then might be post-COVID small business recovery. So if you so the first one captures a wide audience, but then the second and the third one funnels it into a more niche segment of audience. And you are sort of operating on both ends of the spectrum and going wide as well as going deep. So find related hashtags, and the name of the game again is account-based marketing. So the closer you get to that niche or the segment, the better it is. But then if you use that way of funneling it by going wide and then bringing it down to the last one, that's a good use of the hashtags. People also do like carpet bombing and use a number of niche hashtags um, all over the place. I really don't like. I don't know whether that works. That might work when you are in the initial phase of trying out and testing out content. So one of the things which people say is that if a post has been, how do you know whether you need to write an article on LinkedIn about a subject? One of the ways is testing the waters by writing a post, seeing how people are responding to it. And if there is a great response, then, and you have write 20 posts and you get responses on 3 of them, you write articles about those 3 and leave the rest aside. So that's another way of narrowing down the funnel and using that to increase this score, which actually essentially means that people are paying attention to your content.
So I have a question.
Sure.
It's actually two pieces of the same thing. But firstly, I've been tagged by different people in their mentions or whatever, and I'm not exactly sure what the benefit of that is. And number two, if you had mentioned something about being tagged and the people not responding to it in some way, that diminishes the value of the posting or the article. Does not responding to a tag also have its negative effects if you don't do anything, or is that necessarily more of a passive thing?
No, it does not sort of, if I am tagged and if I don't respond, then LinkedIn does not penalize me. That's the so that is something which I think is but the other thing is that, so tagging is good if I want to get someone's attention, but if those people don't respond back within the hour, then it acts like a penalty on the post. So one of the things which I earlier I used to like hashtag all posts to like I used to go all out when I didn't realize what was happening, and I have shown you some of those earlier posts of mine, like filled with hashtags from not hashtags but tags of other people. But now I'm more careful about it. I tag a few people. If I see that they are not responding, I just delete those tags. Maybe I tag a bunch of other people. I use some other things which again will take more time, and I don't want to take up too much of that because I want to get to the next part, and then I'll get back to any follow-ups or any things which we might have. Let me
Emma,
go
while
to
you're
the
loading that, would
Yeah.
it be easier to tag someone in the comments and then that draws them to it without tagging them in the content?
So if you the thing about the comments is something, and while I'm answering this, if all of you can go to the chat and write out your last share your last score over here, the relationship score. So Mary Louise, the comments, one of the things which people do in the comments is if you are using a link which is not native to LinkedIn. So it's a YouTube video or something like that. And LinkedIn does not like any non-native content in the main post. And anything which is, if it is in the main post and it is non-native, you will be penalized in that post. So a lot of people, they mention what they will be adding in the content and they add it to the content. So yes, tagging definitely can be done in the content, comments rather, but in addition to tagging in the comments, you could also use the comments to link to non-native links, like which are outside of LinkedIn. So you wouldn't get penalized, your post wouldn't get penalized because you have linked to a YouTube thing or something in your website which is not on LinkedIn.
So just to be clear, it's better to embed the video, pardon me, embed the video right into LinkedIn as opposed to a link to YouTube.
Right. If it is a LinkedIn native video. So if you have a YouTube video,
Mm-hmm.
like if you have shot a piece of video clip, like if it is your clip, and you have the MP4 file or whatever WMB, whatever the Windows,
Yep.
whatever the format, and you upload it directly on LinkedIn. And I can get to that in a while once I complete this.
Okay,
there are various things like you can then LinkedIn is happy about it because you have used their native format.
Got it.
Right. So so if you have to use a video content which is not on LinkedIn a native format, then it is better to do it on through the comments link rather than the main post over there. And so we come to the last one. So what is the so when we talk about the relationships and Chad, like I wouldn't be too worried about the 7.7. I'll let me get down to so James has this confirmed. If we link an external website of our own, it is better in the comments. The answer is yes. So what is the relationship? So I remember I had said that LinkedIn is all about account-based marketing. What does that mean in in outside of LinkedIn? What does that mean? It means that you are focusing on an account or a sector, or so you are focusing on a narrow segment of individuals, and you are building as many relationships or connections as possible to people in that narrow section of the population. So if I am selling to say an IBM or a GE or even to say Tim Hortons or whatever be that organization, I would want to build in as many connections as I can to say that organization, right? So it should not be I should have, so if I am targeting the retail segment and I say I have 100 connections into retail, and each of those connections are in 100 different organizations, that's something which is not a very prudent thing to do if you are approaching your sales from an account-based marketing approach. I would rather, like, you would do better if you took those 100 connections and then say made 25 connections in Walmart, 25 connections in ShopRite, 25 connections in another organization of that size, and you targeted as much of the decision makers as possible. So, and the same thing works on LinkedIn too. So LinkedIn shows, checks how are your connections, like what are your connections like. So if you have a lot of connections into the same organization and they are decision maker type uh, roles or job titles, and LinkedIn looks at VP and above, your score would go up over there. And it is just not a vanity score, because if you are doing that, in effect, what you are doing is you are also strengthening your relation. If there is an RFP or something coming out, you have multiple people to check what's going on over there. So that's the fundamental thing which I have tested out it through my wife's profile, and she didn't have too many connections. Her score was really low on relationships. I connected to 3 VP level roles, and even though they were in different organizations, the score went up the next day. So so the theory is that the more you connect to decision makers, the more you connect to decision makers in the same organization, the higher your score is. Then there are these other things which you can also do, including LinkedIn. If you go to let me see if I have another slide now. Let me go to LinkedIn and show you what I mean over here by teammates. Teammates is not some.
Sorry, and this is
Go
just a time check that we're about 17 minutes from our 90 minutes being up. So
right. So then this is almost my last piece of thing that I'm doing. So and after that it would be just answering questions, getting into more of amplifications and then stuff. So if I go to my network over here, that thing over here, and I see teammates over here, right? So this is some place where where you can, if there are other people who work in the same organization, you could add them as teammates. So you can add a manager, you can co-workers who report to the same manager, your direct reports, and other teammates. Now, as small business people and as solopreneurs, it is difficult to find teammates. And in reality, I have none. But I am a business counselor at the Small Business Development Center in the Middlesex County. And I have used Parag over here, who is also a counselor over there, advisor over there, and I have tagged him as you add someone else as a teammate. And let me see if she is there. No. So, and then you can add that. So what happens then is that, and this is really more of a reason or a pitch by LinkedIn to sell you LinkedIn Sales Navigator, because there what the team can do is they can share leads with each other. And that's the main purpose or the push towards selling you LinkedIn Sales Navigator and using that in the team section. And if you look at LinkedIn's documentation about about social selling index, they push you to the Sales Navigator. What I have realized is that what you could do is if you have like an alliance, and of there are alliance of coaches, there are alliance of consultants, and even like if you are in a chamber of commerce, and if there are other members who have entered their membership in the experience section in the chamber of commerce, then you can use that to create that team. And if you have another person as your teammate, then your content shows up. Normally what happens is that in the home feed, the way the content shows up is either top or recent. And top means content which is gaining traction. Recent is by recency. But if you are a teammate of another person, then their content takes a bit of a precedence. So if you have a network of people who support each other, if you if you say that the moment you, so LinkedIn looks at the engagement in the first hour of a post being shared, and if you can form a network of people, individuals, who say by WhatsApp, by Slack, by whatever means, by texting each other, you commit to each other that the moment I share my recent post with you, you will go in and like that or comment on that. And we do that with each other. And we form a team or a pod of connections who do this for each other. Then we are in effect, we would be able to game the system a bit. Uh, uh, you can game it to a subtle level. You can, if you do that, most likely you can get your posts with a view of, say, 1,000 or a couple of thousands of view. But that post which I showed you of that 16K view that I was able to do 4 months back, that comes only if it resonates with people. So it is a two-step thing, if or a three-step thing. If you have teammates, they will look at your posts earlier ahead of whatever else they see, and they will have an opportunity of liking those posts. And that's why you build up those relationships. Then I have actually strayed back into the engage with insights part of the thing. And then you are then you if you like each other's posts, that gains a level of precedence, or that is bumped up to the top categorization, and that in turn helps you to gain exposure, if you, by dint of the hashtags and other stuff, and it becomes exposed to people who are not in your direct network. Like, it might go beyond your third degree network if it does well in the hashtags. And if you look at the hashtags, you will see top posts in that hashtag. Let me click here. So in the hashtags, there are 2,500 followers, and it does show second degree. Yeah, it so this is 3 plus third plus, so it is beyond the third degree. And it does often I do see people over here whom I don't know at all. So that more or less, I rushed through the whole thing. I tried not to get into too much of detail. It's a challenge for me to prevent myself doing that. But questions?
It's a lot of information. Michael had a question in the chat. So Michael, do you want to mute? Just ask that, and we'll take questions after that. Other questions?
Shoumo, very informative presentation.
Thank you.
Again, thank you.
Thank you.
Got a lot of notes here.
Good to see you back.
Thanks. Three quick questions. The first two are related. I'll just read them directly from the chat. Does LinkedIn consider how much private dialogue occurs between any pair of contacts in the relationship score? And
yes.
The second, okay. So if there's an ongoing chat, let's say between you and I, it'll rank us up.
So I think what LinkedIn does, it measures the in-mail chats. If you have sent an in-mail to someone, you know the in-mail feature. Like if you can, if people consistently ignore your emails, that's bad for you. If people say no, I'm not interested, that's okay. Like if you write something and they say no, this is not good for me now, I don't want to engage further, that's okay, because people may not need whatever, may not be interested in whatever you are sharing. But if people consistently ignore you, that's bad. So from that piece of data, I speculate that it would apply a bit to the private chats too.
Okay, and the second part of that question has to do with whether or not keywords, let's say, we're having a dialogue and we're using,
so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay, and I also wanted to know, and I guess similar to, I guess you almost answered it when you talk about people being ignored when connections disconnect or block others. How does that affect the relationship score?
I don't have any specific data on that. Given the way LinkedIn operates, I would say that like it may not affect your score, but if you are blocked, then if you reach out to someone and they ignore, if you try to connect and they ignore your connection, you don't get penalized. But after that, if they say, I don't know you, and that happens multiple times, then LinkedIn support will reach out to you and say, hey, what's going on? And if you don't respond or explain, then they will block your, like they will prevent you from sending out connections for a while, connection requests for a while. But otherwise, I don't think they will. So one of the things so I use, in my mind, the LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a good way to monitor whatever I'm doing is working or not. And the reason I think that is because I see it has a connection with my business modeling approach. It has a connection with the account-based marketing approach. But LinkedIn is showing you that because they want to sell you LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Like their motive intent is very clear. Like they want to get more money out of you, right? So, and they want to get more money of you out of you by selling you LinkedIn Sales Navigator. That's why they have this piece, index. But I think that this index is equally good for a lot of other things, including for people who are in job search. So, in unintentionally, they have opened up something that we can exploit to our benefit.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Excellent questions, Michael, as usual. Who else? I have some questions, but I would rather have you guys ask them. So jump in.
Elena has a question on how do you get notified that tagged? It would come in your notification, like that bell that you have on top. You will see that over there that you were tagged. That's and I would suggest that like you go and look at the notifications each time you log into LinkedIn to make sure that you have I missed anything?
Adele, do you have a
So
question?
let me go back.
I didn't know if Adele had a question, so sorry, interrupting. Shoumo.
Okay, no problem. So let me go back to the share a bit and come up with the show the promised last slide. So if someone can, if you so. I do execute commercial LinkedIn projects. Like I take on LinkedIn stuff for clients. I also consult through the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center in the Middlesex County. Anyone who knows the SBDC framework, that is free service to the client. I get compensated a bit for doing that over here, but you have to be in New Jersey, Middlesex County for me to do that. And one of the things and this is my contact detail. One of the things which I say, and this is the graphic to support that, is there can very well be a lot more stuff that we can take on. So only pack what you can carry. So that's we need to remember. And there's a book published by the National Geographic Publications with that title, and I love that title. She talks about the baggage at two levels, emotional and physical, when she goes on a trek to Grand Canyon. But I like that because it sort of on this social media or whatever space, it is a rabbit hole. You can spend a lot of time in it all day and not get results. And I feel that LinkedIn Social Selling Index is a feedback loop which keeps us in check. There are 4 components to it. If you don't have time, start with the one which has the lowest score, and that way you can budget your time, make sure you're not overutilizing your time, and only pack what you can carry. So
Nice.
So
Great image.
I will stop the share and get back to the normal.
Questions? Where's Shoumo?
Elena had a question in the comments, Luke.
Thank you very much.
Is there benefit in joining a group? That's a difficult one. At one point, 3 years back, like before 2017, that's when the LinkedIn went through a lot of, like, the LinkedIn platform went through a change, and they came out with a new interface, and that's a post Microsoft thing. Before that, groups were excellent. They were strong moderators who would rule with an iron hand and make sure the groups did not degenerate into self-promotional discussion. And some of them had very strict rules as to what constituted self-promotion. Nowadays, there's no discussion that goes on, except in a very few of them. And it's all about link sharing, like little Jack Horner, like what a wonderful person I am, is what people get out of groups. So, but even then there are some groups, especially if you have a premium plan, then there are some of those groups which are premium groups, like writing on LinkedIn. There's a group called Writing on LinkedIn, and it has a moderator. There are people, she asks questions, and then so there are some groups here and there which provide some value. But by and large, I think groups are a way of people who are self-selecting to tell you that they are interested in a topic. That has some value. So if I join a group, then I'm telling the world that I'm interested in this topic, right? So anyone else who joins the group knows that I'm interested in this topic. In addition to that, a few months last year, earlier this year, LinkedIn used to allow, if you didn't know a person, you could send an email to that person. But if you were in the same group, you could send up to 5 messages to group members. Now LinkedIn has removed that restriction, and you can send unlimited messages to group members even if you are not connected. So the value of the groups is not sharing content or having a discussion, but it does narrow down the field, and it gives you an opportunity of reaching out to people whom you otherwise wouldn't have been able to reach.
So this is a tip. So
do I need to repeat that? Does that make sense? Or
yeah, so I was going to say it's Adele. What I did is I joined tons of, I mean, I was already in a ton of groups, but I joined some more that had like 300,000 members, because suddenly I could send 1 million emails.
Exactly. So that is the advantage of the groups. But initially, and LinkedIn is looking at how to. So my personal speculation is that since it's a Microsoft product now, they will figure out how to cross-pollinate Yammer and LinkedIn groups. Like, that's my personal, like, I have been correct in a lot of ways in which the LinkedIn product has evolved. Like, they had a lot of things which I knew they were CRM type. They sounded like CRM, and they sounded suspiciously like Sales Navigator features. And sure enough, in a few months, they dropped those. Like, those of you who remember and have used LinkedIn for a while, you'll remember the relationships tag, the relationships tab, the how we met tab. notes tab on the profile that you could. So those were more like CRM. Like those days, you could just use LinkedIn as your CRM if you were getting started.
I'm going to need to wrap this to a close.
Sure.
And I just, I will stay on, but we just need to kind of bring it to a formal close and whatnot. And I do need to make one announcement for next week. My guest speaker, Susan Shepard, next week had to cancel. She had a terrible tragedy in her life. And so she's going to come back sometime in the future, but it was very understandable that she needed to, it was just awful what happened. So anyway, I don't know what I'm doing for next Friday, and I just might cancel it out, but I still have to wrap my brain around that. So look for the for the notice of the it will be canceled. Whether I replace it with something else is different on that.
Luke, can you get somebody to speak on SEO stuff with websites at some point? Because
is that something you would find valuable?
Yes, and a lot of us are going to, or like for 8 years in between all these big jobs, I've always done consulting. Like I've got a bunch of mergers and things going on. And I keep it going. So I never have a gap in my resume. And I think a lot of our 20 million people or however many people there are going to have to do that. And I used to have a fabulous website and it got messed up. And so now I have to re-SEO it.
Okay. So does anyone know anyone who's a subject matter on SEO? Michael, you have the...
I mean, I can help out. I can talk with you,
Okay.
Adele. We can discuss a little bit more because I do website content audits. So I can talk to you a little bit more about what you need and I can see how I can help you out with that.
Yeah, I saw that, Michael, but I'm extremely savvy on website stuff and I need the actually SEO person that codes all the words. I don't
coding. Okay.
I don't need to consult it. I need the person, like the kid, the 20-year-old that I can pay on an hourly basis, who is what I used the last time, that just quickly does it, and I can help them do it. We'll do it together. So I'm looking for somebody's kid, like your.
Right.
Hey, I'm sorry, my rates are too high. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's like I need my 16-year-old son to set the parental controls on the TV. So on that.
Clear that.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop recording and we're going to bring it to an end. Shoumo, do you have some time just to linger a bit longer if people have more questions? Okay, so, well, thank you very much for your presentation. It was absolutely wonderful. The comments people loved, got a lot of good content out of it. So thank you very much. And that's the recording. So whoever wants to stay on and ask some questions, please do.
Sure. So there was something which look, I wanted to jump in and talk about. There was this thing about like people who are between jobs and they don't know what to really like. So their profile has that space between the two positions. And one of the things which I suggest to people in those situations is create a blog site, start blogging, connect it to a company page in LinkedIn, give yourself the chief blogging officer or something like that title, and you talk about your expertise over there, right? So you are sharing your thought leadership, you are sharing that content with the world, and it doesn't seem like you are twiddling your thumb. It seems like you are gainfully engaged and stuff. So that's something which I talk about with a lot of people who are in that situation, transitioning between jobs and stuff. But anyway.
Shoumo, can you give me back host controls, please?
Yes.
Thank you. I can't stop sharing on live on